and government-sponsored sources across the globe. His businesses encompassed luxury hotels all over the world, high-end mixed-use buildings like Trump Tower in New York City, and destination golf resorts. When he arrived in the White House, then President Trump was determined not only to keep this well-branded global corporate empire going, but also to seize a new and unprecedented opportunity to make it ever more lucrative for himself and his family. It would soon become clear that he viewed the presidency as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for self-enrichment and profit maximization, courtesy of some of the most corrupt governments in the world. The presidency became the fulfillment of a get-rich-quick campaign he reportedly described as the greatest infomercial in political history. Immediately after the 2016 election, ethics experts from across the political spectrum read the writing on the wall and urged the new president-elect to fully divest himself of his business interests and place all their proceeds in a truly independent blind trust. These bipartisan ethics experts warned that if he did not divest, the president would remain the ultimate financial beneficiary of payments made to his businesses by foreign powers seeking favorable treatment from the government of the United States, exactly the predicament feared by the framers of the Constitution and explicitly forbidden by the Constitution's Foreign Emoluments Clause. Throwing caution to the wind and the Constitution to the curb, former President Trump bluntly and cavalierly rejected all such bipartisan advice. Instead, he chose to place the day-to-day management of his businesses in the hands of his two adult sons, while retaining personal ownership and control of all of his businesses, as well as the ability to draw funds from them without any outside disclosure. He also refused to divest from his business entities, including those benefiting significantly from businesses with foreign governments. Instead, former President Trump merely pledged that the Trump Organization would enter into no new foreign deals. This transparently improper arrangement reinforced, rather than severed, his ties to businesses and enabled him to prioritize his personal interests over those of the nation, as foreign governments and those acting on their behalf quickly began spending money at Trump properties in hopes of gaining the new president's favor. Thus, the central constitutional ban on presidential acceptance of payments of any kind whatsoever from foreign governments was put in danger immediately. By ignoring this fundamental constitutional command, former President Trump also threatened to obliterate a critical and defining principle of American democracy, namely the strict separation of a president's personal financial interests from those of the nation. In establishing the presidency, the framers emphasized that the president was not a term-limited king, but a public servant whose duty was to serve the common good rather than personal financial interests. The U.S. Constitution emphatically and unambiguously rejected the monarchical system, requiring our elected chief executive to use the office solely to advance the interests of the American people rather than their own personal financial business interests. Given Trump's dramatic departures from the Constitution, the rule of law, and the prior unbroken history of presidential refusals to take foreign state money, as well as the repeated opportunities his business entanglements with foreign states created to use his office to advance his business dealings, Democrats on the Committee on Oversight and Accountability began a nearly 7-year-long investigation initiated by the late ranking member Elijah E. Cummings, advanced by Chairwoman Carolyn B. Maloney, and now completed based on available materials by ranking member Jamie Raskin. As this report makes clear, it provides a significant glimpse into former President Trump's foreign financial dealings, but far from a comprehensive account of his unprecedented efforts to use the presidency to enrich himself and his family in direct violation of the Constitution. After President Trump and the White House had refused multiple requests from the committee to provide documents voluntarily, and after Mr. Trump's longtime former attorney, Michael Cohen, testified before the committee that Mr. Trump routinely prepared false financial statements, then Chairman Cummings issued a subpoena to Mr. Trump's accounting firm at the time, Mazars USA LLP. This subpoena, issued in April 2019, sought documents to help Congress fulfill its constitutional responsibility to determine whether President Trump had business interests that could impair his ability to make policy decisions in the national interest, whether he was complying with the foreign and domestic emoluments clauses of the Constitution, and whether he made accurate financial disclosures to the Office of Government Ethics as required by law. President Trump fought hard to keep relevant financial documents secret, spending years litigating in an unsuccessful effort to block the committee's subpoena. In July 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court rendered its decision in Trump v. Mazars, holding that President Trump was not above the law and had to comply with the committee's subpoena under a new four-part test. President Trump continued to fight the scope of the subpoena in lower courts until September 2022, when a federal district court approved a settlement between President Trump, Mazars, and the committee, pursuant to which the court supervised the agreement. However, in January 2023, upon becoming the new chairman of the renamed Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Representative James Comer apparently decided to allow attorneys for President Trump to speak on behalf of the committee, and acting in that wholly improper capacity, to release Mazars from its legal obligation to produce relevant records to the committee under the court-supervised settlement. According to an email from former President Trump's attorneys to Mazars, Chairman Comer authorized Mr. Trump's attorneys to inform Mazars that the committee has no interest in enforcing Mazars to complete its production of documents and is willing to release it from further obligations under the settlement agreement. In June 2023, Mr. Trump and the committee, under Chairman Comer's direction, filed a joint motion for dismissal and termination of the case. The district court granted the motion on July 5, 2023, ending the litigation and the court's supervision of the parties' agreement. Despite these obstacles, committee Democrats succeeded in obtaining a subset of documents that shine a light on the finances of at least some of the former president's businesses, despite being incomplete and lacking in significant respects because of the chairman's actions and significant gaps in the records possessed by Mazars. This report presents the analysis of these documents prepared by the committee's Democratic staff. Critically, even this subset of documents reveals a stunning web of millions of dollars in payment made by foreign governments and their agents directly to Trump-owned businesses while President Trump was in the White House. These payments were made while these governments were promoting specific foreign policy goals with the Trump administration and even, at times, with President Trump himself, and as they were requesting specific actions from the United States to advance their own national policy objectives. I'm Beowulf Rockland. This is Facepalm America, and in a moment we will continue with the reading of White House for Sale, a report from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Democratic staff. This is Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. Let's continue with the reading of White House for Sale from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Democratic staff. Based on the subset of documents the committee received from Mazars, this report concludes, through entities he owned and controlled, President Trump accepted, at a minimum, millions of dollars in foreign emoluments in violation of the United States Constitution. The documents obtained from former President Trump's accounting firm and from a federal agency demonstrate that 4 Trump-owned properties together collected, at the least, millions of dollars in payments from foreign governments and officials that violated the Constitution's prohibitions on emoluments of any kind whatever from foreign governments. These payments clearly fell within the definitions of emoluments set forth in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, and applied by the U.S. Department of Justice and the federal judiciary, which include payments that flow from transactional relationships with foreign governments or entities, including so-called market transactions. President Trump's businesses received at a minimum $7.8 million in foreign payments from at least 20 countries during his presidency. These included payments from foreign governments and foreign government-owned or controlled entities to properties owned by Donald Trump, including Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York, and Trump World Tower at 845 United Nations Plaza in New York. President Trump never sought or received Congress's approval to keep these foreign payments, as the Constitution requires. Instead of disclosing to Congress the foreign payments his businesses received during his presidency and requesting its consent to retain them pursuant to the process compelled by Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, as multiple presidents before him had done, former President Trump actively concealed these payments and tried to prevent Congress from obtaining information about them. As a result, President Trump obstructed Congress's duty under the Constitution to consider whether to permit the president to retain any of the foreign emoluments his businesses received. The foreign nations making payments to President Trump spanned the globe and included several of the most corrupt and authoritarian governments on earth. They ranged from the People's Republic of China to Saudi Arabia to the Democratic Republic of the Congo to Malaysia to Albania to Kosovo. These countries spent, often lavishly, on apartments and hotel stays at Donald Trump's properties, personally enriching President Trump while he made foreign policy decisions connected to their policy agendas with far-reaching ramifications for the United States. Information available to the committee shows that among countries patronizing Trump properties, China made the largest total payment to President Trump's private business interests. According to the subset of documents obtained from Mazars and an additional document from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, these payments collectively included millions of dollars from China's embassy in the United States and Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, a Chinese state-owned enterprise, and Hainan Airlines Holding Company, a subsidiary of Chinese company HNA Group, owned by the Hainan provincial government. By pocketing foreign states' payments, President Trump repeatedly placed his personal financial interest and the interests of foreign wealth and power above the public interest, resulting in precisely the split loyalty between foreign power and the American people that the framers sought to avoid by writing the Foreign Emoluments Clause into the Constitution. Examples include the following. In 2017, President Trump did not impose sanctions on ICBC, his well-paying tenant in Trump Tower in New York, even though the DOJ in 2016 filed a complaint alleging that the bank had been among Chinese financial institutions that had not provided accounts to a company that had allegedly conspired with a North Korean bank to evade U.S. sanctions. He did not sanction ICBC even after former Republican Chairman Ed Royce of the House Foreign Affairs Committee called on President Trump to apply maximum financial and diplomatic pressure by targeting more Chinese banks that do business with North Korea. President Trump expressed his own personal sympathies and constitutional indifference on the matter in the 2016 campaign when he stated, "I love China. The biggest bank in the world is from China. You know where the United States headquarters is located? In this building, in Trump Tower." The documents provided to the committee reveal that Saudi Arabia and its royal family spent $615,422 at Trump properties during the Trump administration, and the total amount of the country's expenditures is likely much higher than that. In May 2017, while Saudi Arabia was spending lavishly at properties he owned, President Trump signed an arms deal with the Saudi government worth more than $100